With Minecraft's new ability to attach leads between two entities, I want to see what crazy stuff I can do with this. Hello there, Ray here. First, I want to see if I can improve my original void base. Almost 10 years ago, I showed this crazy concept of living in the void using the newly added shulkers and ender crystals of the time. Nowadays, we have boats with a chest in them already, so we don't have to actually carry donkeys inside of our boats in order to have storage up in the air. And when attaching this to a Happy Ghast, we sort of already have a void base, but the problem is if these guys are not on a lead, then they just will move around and they will eventually try to get all the way back down to ground level. Now we could just attach them to a fence post, but that kind of removes the entire point of this, as it's supposed to be a void base, meaning that it's supposed to be in the void either above the world or below the world, which is the limit where you can't build above or below. Now I could use shulkers like I did in my original video to hold it in place, as these mobs have collision like a block, but since they are entity, they can exist in areas where blocks cannot. But to get them up there, you do have to be a bit creative. You can either launch them using like slime, and then when they're up in the air, you can break the boat, and then they would just automatically snap to the nearest block, at least where it would be if blocks could be placed up here. Or you can use like my wind charge launcher, which can launch these guys up millions of blocks easily. But now that Java can actually just put leads onto boats, we can just carry these guys up here. Although in the new snapshot, we can't actually use elytras in order to pull stuff with leads anymore. But we can still use this crazy technique that I showed where you can actually just bounce upwards and use the levitation of the shulker to send your guy slowly upwards. So you can reach any height you want to without even needing an elytra. But as you guys know, working with shulkers is extremely annoying unless you have the invisibility effect, in which case they don't see you unless you get really close. And with this type of base, you would always have to have invisibility whenever you visit it. Otherwise, these guys would shoot at you and end up killing your Happy Ghast. But in my original video, I also showed that you can use ender crystals, and back then they used to actually hold up boats. You could set them on top of it, and then if the boat had a donkey inside it with a chest, then you essentially have storage up here, which is your base. But luckily in Java Edition, any mob can actually hold up a boat, including a chest boat, but we also have the option where we can just string them up from underneath, but you do have to shift click in order to access the chest, rather than hopping into the boat, which would make you take control of it, and since the client side doesn't allow the ghast to take control of it, and it will break the lead. But we can switch it from being client-side driven to server-side driven by having a pig ride the boat and then putting a saddle on the pig. Now if we ride the pig and the pig is riding the boat is now server-side, so we won't take control of it and fall down to the ground. Now with the boat occupied, we can just directly click into the chest and check it out, or we can fly by, click on the pig, and then we can crouch out of it. It's always good to take off the elytra, because the more things that you're wearing, the farther mobs can see you with invisibility. That's why it's also best to have the shulker farther away from the center. Now you can stand on this boat as a platform and crouch down and then access your chest for your loot. Now besides using shulkers to hold the Happy Ghast in place, I wanted to try using boats, as just by having a boat on top of it will stop it from going upwards, but now I need to try to figure out how to get boats on the side in order to stop it from going other directions. To stop the ghast from moving around, I got my alt account to come on and just stand on top of it. That'll stop it from trying to fly away, but hopefully by the end I can remove all the players and the ghast won't be able to move. First I'm going to try to stop it from flying downwards by putting a boat down here. So if I take this boat and I let it kind of hang underneath of the ghast, and then I stand on top of the ghast, you can see it's underneath of it now. And then if I crouch and use the lead onto this boat, using a new feature where we can attach a lead from one entity to another one, you can now see the boat is underneath, but it's not really holding it upwards. I mean, the ghast could just fly downwards because there's this little gap underneath of it, and that would just allow it to slip out of it. But the cool thing with boats is they do have collisions, so you can just stack a few of them up there. So now let's slip the boat underneath of the Happy Ghast and then attach it to this one. And now it is directly underneath and it is getting pulled upwards with the elasticness of the lead, keeping it there. Now I'm going to add some to the sides, but this time I'm going to keep them up high enough so that they don't go underneath of the ghast. And then I'll attach them to this boat here. As you can see, they're a little bit too springy so that they are on the edge, which is perfect. Now if the ghast tries to fly that way, it's going to hit the boat. And since the ghast is too big to actually go inside of boats, it'll be like a wall barrier that can't get past. So I got boats on all four sides now. Let's see if my crazy idea will actually work. Let's remove my alt account and see if this guy will take off any direction. So this guy is leaving, and yeah, looks like it's staying put. You can see it's definitely tried to move, but is being completely surrounded by boats, so it can't go anywhere. Now this would be pretty hard to pull off in survival. You'd have to use other Happy Ghast to carry up boats one at a time, and then drop the boats on top or pull them off to the edge. but it's definitely possible, and it definitely helps to have a second account that just holds the Happy Ghast in place. But rather than messing with all those boats, you can also just deal with a single shulker with a boat on top of it, and then you can take one boat and lead it to the previous boat, so now you have it like that. And then you can just take your Happy Ghast and then lead it to the last boat down here, as whatever you leash it to will then have control over that entity. So this ghast won't be able to break this lead unless you would actually fly the ghast far enough away to break it. Luckily the leads don't get twisted up, because holy muggers, look at that ghast go in circles. But to keep your base out of the distance of the shulker so you don't need invisibility, I recommend using 3 boats, and then from here you are further than 16 blocks, which is how far the shulker can try to attack you. And then you could just fly your lighter up, click onto the Happy Ghast, and then dismount it, where you can then store your stuff or trade with your favorite villager, or use a mushroom to have an infinite food source, and even can carry a cat around to stop phantoms from attacking you at night. Not only is having a base in the void really cool, but the base also goes invisible for anyone who's not near it. If you're wondering, there's actually no limit when it comes to how many entities you can string together, and you can actually climb up this kind of boat ladder, but it's a little bit tricky because you can't sit in there too long. But if you jump and then click on the boat above you, as soon as you get inside you do need a hurry dismount before it breaks the lead. But it can kind of glitch out your character where you're stuck, and even if you crouch, it looks like you're crouching, but it doesn't actually move your character. I do stuff like this all the time, so become a subscriber. Now, attaching things with leads can only work with about half the mobs in the game. But by using boats, we can get pretty much every mob in the game to ride a boat, except for ones that are the same size or bigger, or if they're considered an aquatic or ambient mob. But this chaining of things in a row does have a limit when you go too low, which we can see if we come over here to the end dimension, and then we go all the way down to the bottom of the build limit. If you drop entities into this void, you'll notice that they will just eventually vanish from your view. And this isn't because they get too far away from you. If I go ahead and summon one now, you'll see it will vanish very quickly. This is because we reached the limit of the bottom of the void, which is at -64. At this point, you will take damage even if you're in creative. And if the Happy Ghast goes down in there, it will die too. But boats have very little health. If I summon in something that has a lot of health, you can see it will actually survive quite a long time before it dies. And this is why, as a player, you can actually survive the void just by constantly eating enchanted apples. So this is where you run into a limit of stringing entities together. As they go too low, they'll just be killed by the void damage. But we still have all this area to work with in the void from -64 up to 0 in order to build our void base. But making a void base down here is a bit easier, as we can use gravity to drop the shulker, then destroy its boat so that it gets stuck here, and drop boats using gravity as well as come down with our Happy Ghast and lead it to the boat, and now we have our base down here. And then you can add in your chest boat in order to have some extra storage. Now, if there's nothing inside these boats, they can be pushed accidentally, but you can prevent this just by putting some entities inside of it like chickens, and now if the ghast comes by, it can't accidentally push it off. Now, every entity can only have one lead coming from it, but for the thing that is holding the other end of the leash, there's no limit to how many leash ends they can be holding. Just be careful not to have any empty slots on your boats or accidentally pick up the shulker like it did on mine. And if we douse it with an invisibility potion, it looks like a parasail, like pulling a bunch of stuff, or maybe a parachute. Now, with all the new entity stacking possibilities, I want to see if I could try to make a rocket like we did with the Striders. Now, these super stack Striders only existed in a snapshot, so it wasn't possible after the full release. But when they introduced leads into Java Edition, I did try to come out with a new way to do this. But let's see if we can do something similar with Happy Ghast and the leads. So the way I did this before is you get a boat and then you would pull it, and then you'd be on top of something that is pretty tall, so that when you moved upwards, the boat would push up whatever was underneath of it. But you can see the boat's not actually able to push up the Happy Ghast. So let's just hook a lead to the ghast and we'll just stand up ourselves. And normally jumping up would not actually pull the ghast with you because it freezes when the player is 2 blocks above it. But if you happen to jump higher than 2 blocks, then you can actually pull the ghast with you. And then when you fall back down onto it, it becomes a solid platform, so you don't actually fall through it. So you just made yourself an elevator. Let's see if we can get 1,000 likes on the video. But in survival Minecraft, you can only get as high as jump 2 boost, and you can see that's not high enough so that the ghast will get pulled along. But horses can jump higher than the player, so I got the best jumping horse that you can get in survival, but it's still not pulling it upwards. So let's give the horse a jump 2 potion, and now the horse will jump much higher. Oh, look at that, guys, it works. So we're jumping really high, and then the gas is getting pulled by the lead, and oh, looks like we're clipping through. Looks like there's a little bit of desync between server and client side. So it still thinks I'm on the horse, but it thinks the horse is actually clipping through the gas. And because I'm in control of the horse, I'm client side, yet the gas is server side. So there can be a little bit of misunderstanding exactly where they think my character is. One of them thinks I'm actually on top of the gas, and the other one thinks I'm inside of the gas. Let's see if I can get out of this. I'm trying to walk forward. Okay, can I jump out of this? I think I'm like stuck. What happens to dismount? Oh, I fall through. Let's try relogging and see if it fixes it. Oh, nope, still stuck on it. So it's definitely possible, but the desync is way too bad. But our biggest problem is that we can't actually move the gas while we're within 2 meters of it. Now standing on top of a Happy Ghast will make it never move, and driving the gas yourself is really slow compared to how fast the gas can move when it's under its own control. The only option we have now is to actually ride below it and hope that we can actually launch ourselves like a rocket. But from down here we can't really push the gas at all because we're just too short. But I can get higher than a pig just by riding a llama. But I'm still slightly too far away to actually push the gas with my head. Now we can get slightly higher by using a bamboo boat where the mobs ride on top of it rather than inside of it. But we can do one better by using stacked striders, as they can be found naturally up to stacks of 2. So now if I put the double strider riding in bamboo boat onto the gas, you can see it is really tall. If we look at hitboxes, you can see it's really close to touching it. And then if I go ahead and ride on top of the strider, and now I am so tall that I'm actually pushing on the gas from behind. So let's go ahead and ride on it and see what happens. Oh my goodness, look how fast it's moving. The gas is moving so much faster than if we were actually riding it. The only problem is the gas is moving so fast, it's trying to get to a certain area and it ends up missing it, so it just ends up going in circles, constantly trying to pathfind to the same area. But luckily there's one thing that'll get the gas attention, and that is their favorite food, which is snowballs. So as soon as I hold the snowballs in my hand, they'll turn around and face me. This will kind of slow them down as they're actually trying to walk towards me. But we can see this actually makes it so that I can kind of control where the gas is going. So all I need to do is, if I want to change directions, remove the snowballs and hope it will randomly turn a different direction, and then switch back to the snowballs when it's facing the direction that I want to go. And now we're moving so much faster than if you were actually riding the gas itself. Now the only downside is if it rains, these little striders down here are going to die pretty quickly. And this works so much better than trying to have mobs push you while you're riding it. And by having a second mob in the boat, it pushes the player and the striders closer to the Happy Ghast, meaning that we actually push it more, and this makes it go faster as well. Now it's not as fast as an Elytra, but you still have all the luxuries of a normal Happy Ghast. And the breeze tank that I did can also be mounted onto the Happy Ghast. With one player controlling the Happy Ghast, the other player can be riding down here. You still have to be riding the pig, but it works just like I showed in the previous video. Except the breeze kind of shoots upwards as it's trying to aim towards my player's line of sight. And just like the other one I showed, you can spam click and this will redirect the breeze's projectile. So instead of going upwards, I'm redirecting it downwards, and I can aim it towards all these mobs that are down here. And you can see it actually does work. So you get one player controlling the entire ship and another player actually controlling the guns. Now if you use a pillager, when it tries to shoot, it will miss you and it will shoot beyond you. The only problem is with this, you can't really control the bullets without the person who's actually controlling the gas turning themselves. Now, which also kind of works, as it will throw potions, they will miss you and go past you, and then fall downwards onto your enemy. But as you can see, it can sometimes shoot too high and end up hitting the gas. Problem is, the witch will normally just throw poison because your health is too high. But if you do lower your health low enough, you can get the witch to throw damage potions instead of just poison ones. Now the problem with the blaze is that it won't shoot fireballs if you're too close, instead it'll just hit you with melee. But if you put in some boats and you're far enough away, it will try to shoot. Although you have to be really careful because it will just shoot the boats and kill them even if everything else has fire res, since boats can't accept potion effects. Alternatively, you can just have the main person driving the Happy Ghast with some invisibility effect on them, and then they just fly near other players that are on the server, and then these hostile mobs will automatically try to attack them, and as long as they don't destroy the boat, it should be fine. And to pick up these hostile mobs, you just have to have an empty boat underneath the Happy Ghast, and then come down and swoop along the ground to pick them up. Now one that can be particularly dangerous is having a evoker in there, because they will constantly keep putting out the Vex, which will come out and attack your enemies. And if you get close to the ground, you can see it can also summon in fangs on the ground to attack the player. But for the person on the ground, it is pretty easy to counter these attacks. All you have to do is attack the boat, as once you destroy the boat, everything else will just fall down. Or you can even just shoot the Happy Ghast, as it's not easy to keep them safe. There's some other funny stuff you can do with the leads, like having a fox constantly running away from a wolf, but at the same time pulling the wolf with them. Or having your boat tied to a dolphin so it can actually pull it around. But once the dolphin sinks, the boat becomes more of an anchor. Or make your lay pull your stuff for you, like this boat. We can also tie enemies together until one kills the other. Now Glass Dragon came up with this next one, which is actually really ingenious. Since you will automatically break leads as soon as you use a rocket, no matter how slow you're going, by making an allay hold your gas for you, the allay is now the one in control and will actually pull the gas. And if you give the allay an item, it will now try to stay close to you. So if you would walk away, the allay is going to chase after you to try to get close again, and also pulling your Happy Ghast along with you. And then you can combine this with rockets, as the allay will now try to fly to where you're at and keep up with you, and at the same time pull the gas along with it. You do have to stay kind of close, because if you get too far from your lay, it'll just get stuck. But with this way, you're able to fly with your rockets and elytra and have your gas getting pulled along with you. Thanks everyone who became my guinea pigs during my testing live streams. You guys can see all the behind the scenes over at my second YouTube channel. I had a lot of fun coming up with all this stuff. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye bye!